Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think. Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christies, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. Headliners is coming right up, but first, our top stories. For the first time, video footage has been released which appears to show Conservative Party staff holding a raucous Christmas party at Tory headquarters in December 2020, which was during the COVID pandemic. In the video, which was obtained by The Mirror, one party-goer can be heard urging another not to live stream the footage as they joke about COVID restrictions. 2 other dancing revellers appear to drunkenly bump into a table covered in party food. At least 24 guests were said to be at the gathering. CCHQ says formal disciplinary action was taken against 4 staff members over the event. Deputy Labour leader Angela Rayner says the video shows Tories openly mocked the rules the British people followed. The National Education Union has announced more strike action for next month. On the 5th and 7th of July, teachers in England will walk out in their long-running dispute over pay. The NEU is also reballoting its members to see if they want to continue taking industrial action for the rest of the year. Thousands of people have been marching through central London earlier on, calling for a change in UK abortion laws. They were chanting for the release of Carla Foster, who admitted to taking abortion pills after the legal time limit, resulting in the death of her child. The 44-year-old mother of 3 was given a 28-month extended sentence. Some MPs have called for a rethink over the law, which bans terminations past 24 weeks except in exceptional circumstances. The Kremlin says it's unlikely that Russia will extend the Black Sea grain deal. The current agreement allows food and fertiliser to be exported from 3 Ukrainian ports. providing a steady food supply to multiple countries. Its collapse could leave some nations facing food shortages. Meanwhile, President Putin says he's shown African leaders a draft peace agreement with Ukraine, which he claims Kyiv has turned down. And finally, Kensington Palace has released a picture of the Prince of Wales and his children ahead of Father's Day. The photograph shows Princess Charlotte and Prince George on either side of their dad. The youngest, Prince Louis, is hugging William, and all of them are smiling. The picture was taken on the Windsor estate earlier on this year. Happy Father's Day to everyone for tomorrow. We're on TV, online on DAB+ radio and on TuneIn too. This is GB News. Now, time for our headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen and I'm joined by two comedians who are certainly qualified to be on this newspaper review show. They can read. It's Josh Howie and Paul Cox. Did you have fun in the sun today, gentlemen?
Took down the tent. Yesterday I went, put up a tent, then I came here, then I went to bed, then I went where my family were and put down their tent.
Oh, they're having a holiday? I just wondered if you were just...
I had a holiday without me.
You got a job in B&Q.
You just put the tent up?
Just put the tent, that was my job. Put the tent up, that's what I've done. 24 hours just putting tents up and down, packing the car, driving around. It's being a dad.
No, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm a dad and I've not had to do any tents. They can do their own tents, can't they?
No. You know nothing of the world of camping yet, my friend.
Oh, camping? Yeah, I thought you were parenthood. You're right, I'll never learn about
To avoid the camping was shrewd, though, Josh.
Oh, yeah, I know. I wasn't meant to be on last night, and I begged the producers.
Just came in.
Please insist. And then send me a text so I could show my wife, like, we need an emergency. So
to get you away from that chemical toilet. Right, let's take a look at the front pages. We start with The Mail on Sunday. Proof Boris accusers did go to party in lockdown. The Sunday Telegraph, Starmer aide Sue Gray, civil service job rules. I'm sure that's a sentence. Observer, just an ex-MP, Sunak allies pour scorn on Beaton Johnson. It's a phrase and a half, isn't it? Sunday Mirror, lockdown video bombshell, Partygate tapes. And the Sunday Express, get a grip and save the economy. And finally, the Daily Star Sunday says, I forgot I'd been abducted by aliens. And those are your front pages. Hope we get round to that one, but let's kick off with an in-depth look at Sunday's papers with the Sunday Mirror, Josh.
Indeed, they got an exclusive, the Partygate tapes. So don't expect... No other Partygate tapes are out there. These are the ones.
These are the tapes.
And it's a big deal for them. It's the first ever footage of the Tories breaking the rules. We've seen some photos in the past and there was like, oh, look, they're drinking a drink and here's a cake or something like that.
Yeah.
This is people for... I'm a Tory in the lockdown. That's my interpretation of the... Oh, here we go. Look, there we go. Look, they've got the jumper.
Exactly the moves you
doing
did,
the robot. Yeah, like I said, look at that. And then they're about to collapse. And then they're going to kiss. Where's the kiss? Come on.
What's amazing about this is if the three of us sat down to write a sketch
That's me, by the way. You didn't see me there for a second. I was wearing the glasses. Sorry, yeah.
This is how we would write it. It just looks like young Tories in a room, doesn't it? They are staffers, aren't they?
There are so many people wearing braces. How many? Is that what you have to do to join to be in the Young Tories?
This is what jumped out to me the most. Ben Mallet seems... I don't know why he gets named. I don't know why... I've yet to discover why Ben Mallet is so important.
Because he's on the honours list.
Is he?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense now.
Yeah.
But he's got fully kitted out with the Gordon Gecko braces. The right... He's gone to the Tory guru shop and said, make me look like...
More of a whiff of American Psycho.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You expect to get his business card, start comparing the different fonts and whatnot. Yeah, we're joking about it because that's sort of our job a little bit.
Yeah.
But there can be people out there, and I'm angry inside, but there are people out there who lost loved ones, as you did, and people out there being fined for exactly this. Thousands of pounds.
Oh, and way less than this. Fined for having a coffee on a bench.
Yeah. I remember being out with my family in the boiling hot day in the sun and the police pushing us on because we've been out for 45 minutes and whatnot. and to see the sort of the flagrancy of it, and there's even like jokey in the audio. You can hear them saying, "Oh, we're bending the rule," and all this sort of stuff, and it's just frustrating. Now the question is, have people moved on? Are we just happy it's all over and we just kind of want to forget about it, or are people going to see this actual footage, which is so much more damning than a photo and various reports and whatnot, and going to get their back up again and be truly upset by it?
Yeah. Paul, is this going to trickle down in Labour's favour?
Yes, absolutely. It has already. I think all of Labour's favours have been passed to them already. We're just waiting for a general election now. I must admit, I mean, perhaps I am getting rather weary of this story. It didn't seem to invoke the emotion in me that I thought it would when I first watched it earlier on, because it seems like it's so long ago now. It feels like that's what I expected anyway. I think Stephen was saying earlier, you know, isn't this what we expected? And yes, I think this is what I'm seeing, what I expected to see anyway. So it's not. I'm not looking at it through the prism of how I felt at the time.
Yeah, well, that's the point I'm trying to get. I guess I'm trying to make exactly that is. If it had been, it's been a couple of years now, but absolutely. If it had been even a month after, but if it had been right around then, and the fear that we were all in, and then just see a bunch of people just having a proper laugh and not caring, and everybody else, the whole rest of the country, were on lockdown.
I think the point is, irrespective of what you thought of lockdowns or any of the pandemic issues, these rules were set out by these people. We all followed them and got told off for being outside for 45 minutes while they were wearing Gordon Gecko braces and trying to do some specialist moves over the vol-au-vents.
Specialist moves. Well, let's see what the Sunday Telegraph goes with, Paul.
So this harks back to that, really. I mean, Starmer aide Sue Gray broke civil service job rules. This is all about Sue Gray and the fact that she fell short, essentially, of the requirements of both the Civil Service Code and her employment contract by interviewing with, well, being interviewed by Keir Starmer, and of course she's now a key part of his team. It's all kind of water under the bridge, though, isn't it? She has been poached by him. She is going to be part of Labour's election campaign, and I'm sure will probably be a part of the party when they're in power next year. I can see her being the first casualty at some point. I can see this rumbling on because there are plenty of people who are going to feel quite bitter about her part that she played in Boris's downfall, her part that she played in other
But it's that people rewriting history a bit, because what part did she play in his downfall?
Well, she pointed out what people already knew.
Which then led to
at his bequest. Like, he's the one who appointed her.
Yeah, what I mean is...
That report also led to no consequences. He didn't resign.
No, exactly.
He didn't step down because of it.
No, what I mean is there are still people that harbour, irrespective of what, you know, I'm with you on this, by the way, but irrespective of that, there are people that still harbour this as a strong view that Boris should have had lots longer longevity than he was afforded, and Sue Gray was part of that problem.
Leading question, was Boris not part of that problem? Like, literally, with that mandate, with that majority, he should have had longer. The only few things he had to do.
Well, I would suggest with everything that Boris has done in his life, it always has fell short because of Boris.
Yeah.
I mean, but what I mean is there are people that will hold other people accountable. They can't possibly hold Boris to account.
But this is about her. If she fell short, then that's wrong. And she is meant to be impartial, and that's the reality at the time. Going to the leader of the opposition and saying, "Hey, he's going to have a job," that is, you know, as this report makes out, is not acceptable. That's not part of her contract. That doesn't represent the best of what the civil service is meant to do. Now, the other report is basically that, you know, where you have to go and say, "This is what I'm going to do in my life afterwards." They've said you've got to take 6 months off, and then she can come back. So at the moment, she's on a gardening break, enjoying the sun, and then she'll start, I believe, in October with Labour. But yeah, this doesn't reflect well on her, or arguably Keir Starmer. But is it the big gotcha? Is it them dancing and getting drunk together and wearing braces?
Yeah.
And, no.
Will it be used as a stick to beat anyway, regardless?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, but you know the thing about these sticks, it's interesting, is like when it's not a very impressive stick or quite a boring stick, I think these sticks sort of backfire. And it's like when they tried to like find the stuff about like Keir Starmer had like this land, You know, I don't remember this. This was like the early attempts of the right-wing press to find some stuff about him. So they found out that he'd had some land in his name, and it turns out it was a donkey sanctuary for his disabled mum. And if this is like the worst stuff you've got on the guy,
How dare
then it backfires. And again, but this reflects more on her. So yeah, is it great? No. But is it like the worst thing in the world? Is it as bad as all this other stuff that's come out? No.
Let's move on to the Sunday Express. Josh, what have they got for us?
Yeah, get a grip, save the economy. This is the more of the same, because all the stuff that we're talking about, no one's actually running the country. And that is, and then on Monday we're going to have the vote, which was funny because all these sort of MPs were going out and defending Boris in the newspapers, but also like on TV shows and whatnot. And then he just turned around and said, "Yeah, don't support me. It's all good. Just stop it now." And after them sort of putting themselves out there for him, but the idea is that so I think Tories themselves are frustrated with themselves because all this does is just reflect badly on them. And we've got a few stories coming up of further delayed action on different parts of making our lives better, which is what the government's meant to do, and they're not doing it.
Although, flip side, just to be deliberately argumentative, really, in some ways, all of the stuff that they're talking about isn't distraction, it's good cover. Otherwise, we'd have to be sitting here talking about interest rates going up further, inflation going higher than experts thought, and mortgage prices coming down the pipe to slappers. We're not talking about that as much because we're going like, oh, no, look, they're having a row about cake.
Yeah, but the frustration's going to be the same anyway. It's like it's a frustration for them and they're not doing it, or for whatever the reasons are. Like, we're still having the impact on our lives, and this is it's a bad excuse.
Yeah. Paul, how does this sit with you?
Yeah, it is a distraction, and it is a distraction from quite an impending doom, I think. We have got some nasty stuff coming down the tube. Doesn't matter who comes into government, they've got a lot to deal with. And I think, you know, some of that is outside of any government's control, but what is coming our way is well beyond people dancing in a room over vol au vents, well beyond what happened 3 years ago. And I think this is why, perhaps it's because time has passed, and therefore, like I said earlier, that well of emotion's now gone. I don't feel as impassioned about it at all anymore.
You're dead inside.
I'm dead inside. I've moved on. We have to forget this pandemic, don't we? Because it was a harrowing time. So
still in it, living it.
You're just gripping onto it. I'm not letting it go.
He recreates it on weekends.
But you know, I read today that at some point, not at some point, by the end of the year, there are people that genuinely believe that the interest rates will be at 6% by the end of this calendar year. That is going to be horrific for most people who took out mortgages in the last few years. For instance, you bought a house at 75% mortgage, 80%, 90% mortgage in the last 2 or 3 years. All of a sudden, your payments that were once £900 a month are in the order of £2,000 a month, double what they were. And that's going to see people lose their homes.
Yeah, I will move on. I love to get bogged down in the numbers, you know what I'm like, but we've got to move on to is probably the most important front page.
I would say
all
so.
The news, the Daily Star Sunday. What's it got? That got for us?
Well, this is with me, and it should be rightly, because I'm going to show it the most reverence. I forgot I'd been abducted by aliens. That's not me, by the way. I would probably remember that. But this lady here, if you can see, I don't think you can see the front page at home. Key here.
She's the one on the left, yeah?
I think she's on that key, though. She's pointing to the sky to show you where the aliens come from.
OK, but there's one behind her. I don't know what
I think that's... So this is why I find it difficult that she forgot, because she's clearly kept one.
Yeah. Or it might be invisible, or it could be a figment of imagination.
According to his lawyers, that's not his hand.
Oh, yeah.
I hope that... No, good point. No consent asked for. But, I mean, another big story.
Well, I mean, I'm actually very disappointed in the Daily Star.
Yeah?
Because I feel like occasionally they actually do some properly good news, or they take an interesting slant. This is not acceptable, Daily Star. Even for rubbish Daily Star front pages, this is I forgot I've been abducted by it. Like, no, you don't get to... No, this is not a new... I'm sorry, this is not a no news story, no news.
Do you know what? I'm shocked about this newspaper. Normally, like half of the front pages are about some impending weather thing.
Yes.
It never really happens. The one day when we're going to get some storms, aliens.
Yeah. Good point.
Play to your strength.
Very disappointed.
Right, that's the front pages out of the way. In the next section, they are banning your 2-for-1s, and Prince William pegs his colours to the mast. We'll find out more soon. We'll see you there.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing. We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the people's channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christies, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christies, on GB News and GB News Radio.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the people's channel. Britain is watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the people's channel, Britain's news channel.
Back to headliners in just a moment, but first, in breaking news, Rishi Sunak now faces a 4th by-election following the immediate resignation of a former Tory MP. David Warburton, who had the Tory whip suspended last April, has stepped down from his Somerton and Frome seat following accusations of sexual harassment and cocaine use. In an interview with the Mail on Sunday, Mr Warburton admitted taking cocaine after drinking Japanese whiskey. However, he denies harassing a female aide. He's issued a statement saying he'd been denied a fair hearing by the Independent Complaints and Grievance Scheme while it probed the accusations. The Prime Minister now faces 4 potential by-elections following the resignations of Boris Johnson, Nigel Adams and Nadine Dorries. We'll bring you more on that story as we get it. Now let's go straight back to our headliners.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen. I'm still here with Josh Howie and Paul Cox. But don't worry, I've done this with worse. On to the Sunday Times, Josh.
No, sorry, you've got to give me a second to get over this David Warburton news, because it's too much for me. I can't... This is insane, wow. Are you shocked?
No.
Do you know? I mean, first of all, how dare he? Japanese whiskey? Excuse me.
What's wrong with
traditional? He should be drinking Scottish whiskey. Yeah. This is Great Britain. I mean, this discuss cocaine. It was probably Mexican cocaine or Colombian cocaine.
Not grown in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is there no end to this disgusting?
How many by-elections do you have before it actually becomes a general election, by the way?
How many do you become? When does it become a gay election? Joke on bi. Sorry.
Don't worry, I'm sure.
Sorry, I was sure. We were given very little warning. I would have had a lot longer. I would have written a much better joke if I could have.
There's many opportunities to do those kind of jokes in the next couple of stories. Sunday Times, Josh, and a man who will inherit many bedrooms wants to end homelessness. There could be something in this.
Prince William, I want to end homelessness in Britain. Yeah, so he's given his first big interview, and it's in the Times, and he's basically said, yeah, homelessness is really bad, or, you know, but in like a posh accent, homelessness is terrible, and one of the things that one wants to do after my mother took me along to see homeless people is to cure it. And he's sort of, the cynical person would go, was that a good accent? I don't know. No. It's better than Sky's Prince Harry's.
Prince Harry look-alike? No.
Yeah. But I actually know a little bit about homelessness, not because I'm homeless or anything like that.
You walk past them every day.
Yeah. Dressed like one.
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. It hurts a little bit in pain from that one.
Thank you. Let me...
one of my best mates, he works for a homeless charity, runs one of the homeless charities in London, and we talk about it quite a lot. And it's a very complicated issue, and it's not just about building enough houses and whatnot. There's a myriad of factors, predominantly mental health being one of them, and the fact that some people actually, that's their life. They want to be. I'm not saying all of them by any means. What Prince William is talking here is about certainly catching younger people, and he's right in that there's a lot of younger people who are sort of bed hopping and who are arguing with parents, who are dealing with domestic violence and various other issues. Catching them before they're out on the streets. That is something that he's sort of... They've got like 33 flats that are going to be open for younger people at risk. That stuff is obviously a very necessary thing, but it seems like his big idea is to get a couple of homeless charities together and put himself in the middle and everyone to go, oh, wonderful, thank you so much, Prince William, for bringing us all together. That is literally the substance so far to what this whole article is about.
Paul, in 30 seconds, solve homelessness.
Well, they did, didn't they, during the pandemic? They put them all into hotels, and as soon as the pandemic passed, they took them out of hotels and put them back on the street again. So they've already solved it once, 3 years ago, so we just need to build more hotels or have
get COVID back.
Have another pandemic.
Yeah.
Sunday Times, Paul, and Starmer's lucky streak continues. His political opponents just keep doing themselves in.
Well, they do indeed. Labour is poised to win more seats than Nationalists at the next general election in following financial scandals in Scotland. I mean, this is clearly all about Nicola Sturgeon, which is a favourite subject of mine. Now, the two political firebrands that basically gave Labour its biggest kicking since 1935 were essentially Boris on the back of, getting Brexit done, and Sturgeon on the back of, the SNP and independents in Scotland. One's been arrested and is never going to be in politics after, within the next 6 months, I don't think. I think Nicola Sturgeon's hopes and plans of being in the EU, whatever she had planned, are now down the Swanee, I would say. And, of course, Boris has fallen on his own, and he's out of action
Johnson.
now. He's falling on his own Johnson.
Tricky but doable.
As a result, it just leaves the race completely open for Starmer. I don't think he can mess it up. I mean, Hamza Yousaf isn't going to do anything. I mean, Hamza Yousaf, he's got no chance in Scotland.
You don't know, there are a lot of donkey fields out there that we might be hearing about in the future.
I'd like to see someone like the Lib Dems, but no one knows what the Lib Dems stand for. Now, I'm someone who personally knows some grassrooters, councillors that are Lib Dems, and they, that really are tremendous people. But I have no idea what the Lib Dems stand for, and I just don't know if they've got enough time to get that across. So I think Keir Starmer is his to lose now.
Yeah, well, the Lib Dems flourish in local council elections.
They always do.
They're about details and whatnot. But then they've been taking in this whole gender ideology issues and whatnot. But anyway, the interesting thing here also is that the swing to the SNP to Labour is mostly from yes voters in terms of people who want independence. So if anything, that does go to show you that having these kind of these sentiments for larger issues, they actually only take you so far. You need to get the basics covered, and that is what the SNP have failed to do over the last sort of 10 years or so, is deliver for their...
They had one policy, though, didn't they? Because for me, they're very populist. They just floated about between whatever it might be. You only got to take the gender recognition bill. Why she decided to die on that hill, I don't think anyone will ever understand. And that was just... stereotypical of what the SNP are about. Whereas, people understand what Labour are about. So I think, and once you get a Labour government in Westminster, the independence issue goes away for 4 years.
Interesting. Right, let's move to The Observer, Josh, and a survey where they probably didn't ask some headliners panellists.
UK is among countries with the most positive attitude towards refugees, poll find. So this is 22,000 adults across 29 countries. Found British people had the third most enthusiastic outlook, just behind Spain and New Zealand. It's ironic that New Zealand is has such a positive attitude towards migrants, is because it's so hard to get there, number one. And number two is, and my aunt and uncle tried to move there recently and it's like they make it so difficult. You have to have like loads of money, you have to be able to take care of yourself, all this. So this idea that I'm sure they're pro the idea of it, but the reality of it is it seems very much remains a closed society. Anyway, let's talk about Britain. And 56% of Britons believe that refugees make a positive contribution compared to 45% internationally. There's lots of these kind of statistics that more than half of Britons think that refugees should be allowed to stay. And I talked about this the other day, but I think that what is interesting here is how some people, what they think of when they think of migrants. And I think some people think of Afghani women who were being subjected to the misogyny of the Taliban government, not being able to be educated and go to girls' school, and also Afghanis who helped British people when we were over there and whatnot. And some people think of Albanian 20-year-olds coming over and getting up to, criminal activity. So the truth is, of course, there's bits of both. And I think that some of this, the wording of this, seems to focus more on the latter. Like when it's talking about people in need, I think, yes, people do. We're a fair society. That's what arguably makes us British, that we should help out and whatnot. And certainly when you're seeing, I think it's 100 million people get migrants, or is that 100 million internationally displaced people for the last time. So it's growing, and it's only going to grow with more environmental disasters and whatnot. I think Britain feels like, yes, we should take our fair share, but I think we need to have control over who those people are that we let in. If that makes sense.
Paul, do you think this survey chimes with what we read in the press a lot?
Well, it depends what press you read. I mean, this must irk, I think, The Guardian slightly, because this is now 2 polls in the space of 2 months that is basically suggesting that us Brits are pretty flexible, amenable, welcoming people, which I think most of us believe anyway. I know that there's different ends of the spectrum, and you get to see the worst of each reported, because that's what makes the news. But they've definitely gone and framed this in a way that brings it back to being a Guardian article. Because, for instance, they say, despite increased hospitality, far from it, hostility for the UK government.
Barges.
So I don't see. I want to stick up for the Tories slightly here, I'm afraid, because I don't think the government are necessarily hostile about the people. They're hostile about the problem, and it's getting to a point now where the only way they can win votes is to prove that they can stop this problem. Whoever gets into power is going to have to stop this problem one way or the other, and it's not because I don't think it's a personal issue. I think it's a group issue, and our resources can't sustain it.
On to the Express, Josh, and you can still get your 2 for 1 for now.
Government delays ban on 2-for-1 junk food deals amid cost of living crisis. So this is how they're framing it. Like, we're doing you a favour. Oh, guys, everything's getting really expensive. It's got nothing to do with us, promise. And so you can still buy all that stuff and make you look really fat. Of course, it's a false economy here because being obese is costing the NHS about $6.5 billion a year. So, we were talking about this in the first section, but it's just indicative of just the government just kicking stuff along the line that they need to be getting on with actually governing. And this is one of the things that was meant to start 2 years ago or a year ago, and then it got put back 6 months, and then it got put back 6 months. This is trying to help us be healthier, help people live longer. And there are other things like Gove had his very sensible plans for banning leaseholds, which is a medieval system and affects people who have I have a flat and I'm in a leasehold and it affects me terribly. That was meant to be a sure shoe-in to get pushed in. Now that's been pushed back as well. It's like all this, the actual good stuff that this government should and be pushing through, and you would argue would be making people's lives better and also would be bringing them more likely to bring them back into government is just kick down the road.
But on that point, would this particular thing be easily spun as making the Tories look like the bad guys, banning 2-for-1 deals? So maybe that's why they're doing it. Maybe this is more of a PR thing.
Yeah, I mean, spin is the word for this, because it's the sort of thing Labour will gobble up. No pun intended, actually, but I'm pretty proud of it either way. However, this is... If you follow through with this sort of thing, it's like nanny state stuff. So you are telling people they can't do this, they can't do that. You know, at the end of the day, fast food is cheap and delicious. It's not nutritious, but it is cheap and delicious, and it will feed a lot of low-income families very cheaply and very quickly. So they can't, during a cost of living crisis, just take that away. That makes perfect sense to me economically. However, in the long term, they're going to have to deal with the root cause. You can't just make this stuff more expensive. It's all about education, and it's all about making the stuff that is going to be more nutritious for you affordable and ubiquitous.
We always blame education, but everyone knows. You pick someone on the street and say, good food, bad food, point to the good one. People know. People know that eating too much is bad for you.
It's not necessarily making it more expensive as such. I mean, in terms of, like when they did with the sugar tax, with the drinks, that's made an impact, and it does work.
Sure, yeah.
So the idea is 2-for-1 stuff encourages it. Arguably,
I think when I said that Labour are going to gobble this stuff, I think it's the first thing that they'll do is things like this. They're not going to have control. They're not going to have control over the big things that are in their manifesto. But what they can do is start banning.
But this is a Tory policy that
it is. Yeah, no. But I think it's going to work in Labour's favour in the end.
Well, that's it for part 2. Part 3 promises homophobia from Take That and health advice from Boris Johnson. It's opposite day. We'll see you in a sec.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think. Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in their home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christies, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions, and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio, and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views, and often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's go to the Mail on Sunday, Paul. A Take That member gets cancelled. So we'll probably on this show next.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing Howard Donald, because he's been axed from Nottingham Pride for liking a series of transphobic and homophobic tweets, with the singer saying he is disappointed in himself following a grovelling apology. I mean, straight away, he's assuming his own gender there, Josh, so he's in all sorts of problems. I mean, the tweet, by the way, that he liked said, only women have periods, men cannot menstruate. Cannot menstruate. Now,
men cannot say menstruate. God, you really are misogynistic. You can't even say menstruate.
So
terrible.
I mean, I don't disagree with those tweets. Now, at the end of the day, if you're going to host Pride events, probably steer clear, read that stuff, don't like it, carry on, take the paycheck, because there's a lot of people out there that are woke for pay, and, you know, Howard could have well been that person. He's had to... I mean, never apologise, by the way, Howard. I don't know if you're out there, mate. Never, ever apologise. You've lost the job already. What do you gain from apologising? They'll forget. You can do it next year. But, I mean, for my money, it's just... We see these stories regularly. It depends on which side of the argument you fall down on. I think it's remiss of him to think he could get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, these things can happen and it only takes a minute. So, I was thinking of which one would fit.
I wish I'd done it.
It's great that you know all the lyrics so well. I saw an interesting tweet, someone I follow online, who basically point out that this isn't a free speech issue. A lot of people go, oh, he's been cancelled, he's whatever. No, he's chosen to make his opinion known by liking certain tweets, and they don't ally with what this festival see themselves about. So there's an argument there that it isn't really about free speech. They don't see him as a fit now for what they're put. They want to be the kind of festival which believes that women aren't the only people who menstruate. If you believe that only I don't even know how to phrase this, that not just women menstruate, then go to Nottingham Pride, because you're going to have a good old time with a bunch of people who are pretty thick.
This didn't feel like a cancelling story to me. Didn't feel like a free speech story either. You know, because we've lost that. We've got this whole free speech thing now. It clouds everything. But at the end of the day, before all this, if we went back pre-2010, you know, if you're going to be employed by someone, you need to be on board with what they're about. So at the end of the day, whether I agree or Howard agrees or not, they're not going to employ him.
But I agree with you. He shouldn't have apologised. He hasn't let himself down. He's agreed with basic biological science, except for the anti-vax stuff. Anyway.
On to The Observer, Josh, and this will confuse some right-wing types. A place has banned the pride flag, but why?
Yeah, this is an interesting story. A sense of betrayal, liberal dismay as Muslim-led US city bans pride flags. This is Hamtramck, which is quite an ironic... having a Muslim-controlled council in old Hamtramck, Michigan. It's got a Muslim majority council, and they voted to exclude the LGBTQ plus flags from city property, and it's sour relations. There's a good book called What's Left, written by Nick Cohen, which basically talks about the allyship post-2001 with between the far left and Muslim fundamentalists, essentially, and how... So, and then you have these weird things where you have like these sort of marches against, or pro-Palestinian marches or anti-Israel marches, whichever way you want to phrase it, and sort of people saying, you know, homosexuals for Hamas or for Palestine, you know, and you go, yeah mate, go take that flag, and take that down to Gaza, take it in the West Bank, because of course in those places they hang their homosexuals from cranes. So. It's like I'm not saying this is what is going on here, but I'm just saying that when you have the allyship of the far left and not just Islam, but really other groups as well, there's going to be tensions, and we saw that also with I believe it was Albanian families who last 2 weeks ago there was a sort of not a mini riot outside the school board, and people were against Antifa, and people were saying, like tweeting saying, oh, look at these white fascist far-right people. It's like, no, these are not far-right people. These are people who are trying to protect their children. So it does become confusing. It should be said, in fairness, that it's not just the LGBT flag that they've banned. They've done this, the resolution also bans all displays of flags with any ethnic, also any racist, any political views from the grounds, which sounds fair enough. Let's just keep separation of church and state.
Yeah.
I guess the church of ideology, church of identity politics from the state. I think that's actually not a bad thing.
And Paul, is this like the paradox of tolerance, that you have to be tolerant of people's intolerance?
Well, what's really interesting is Josh has invoked sort of a theory or a thought in my mind. There is no Venn diagram for the far left and Islam. There is no Venn diagram. The only thing that puts the two together is that the far left hate the people that they think hate Islam. So for me, it's not like they overlap, because Islam is about as far away from far left as you can get. It's a very conservative, therefore quite right-wing religion, because all religions are, you know, there's a set of principles to follow. And I've never fully understood why. I can only assume, and this has occurred to me right now, is that the far left think that they are some way getting at the people that they believe don't like Islam by supporting Islam.
Enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let's move on to the Telegraph Pool. And when it comes to trans issues, mum's the word.
Yes, mum's the word. Don't tell parents if child comes out as trans, chief rabbi tells school. So why, this is the question that always comes to me, why do all ideologies, and I believe it's all ideologies now, require people to lie to protect its principles? At the end of the day, there's two things going on here. There's the trans issue and there is the safeguarding of children. And I think the two really should be mutually exclusive quite often. Now, the point of this story is, if you are within a school, or in this case, I assume a synagogue, but is it a synagogue?
No, it's a school.
It's a school. So, and a young child comes and says, I believe I'm trans. The idea is that rabbi or that school or that teacher or whoever is protecting that child by not telling the parent, because the parent might have adverse, negative views about that. However, if they're children, we keep coming back to children. If they're children, the first person that needs to know anything about that child's safety or any issues involving that child are the parents. I can't think of many precedents where we should not be telling unless it's domestic abuse.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? So you made the point that safeguarding would include not doing things that put the child at risk. Now, it surely wouldn't be a case of you should never tell any parents about anything. But if you do think there's a risk that a child will be at risk if you pass on this information, then you're over here. This safeguarding rule applies. It then becomes complicated.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the chief rabbi, Rabbi Mervis, he's a good guy. So, you know, but this is taken from a document from 2018 that was written in with a LGBTQ plus organisation, and essentially what they've done is conflate, as gender ideology does, homosexuality with gender identity. And so in this case, they're saying, like, basically, if someone came out and said, oh, I'm gay or whatever, that's an innate thing. But what they're saying, that by putting the two together, they're sort of saying, oh, but they're not realising that gender identity usually has been shown to be essentially a sociological contagion. So that needs parents' impact and influence in on it, because certainly when it's young girls and they're influencing each other, then parents can make decisions that might affect that. They have the chief rabbi's office has said since that it is up to the parents to actually deal with their children. They're just trying to safeguard the kids. I think they got given some bad advice. They put it in a document because they thought they were being good people, just like most people seem to be. And now they're saying we're waiting for the government to be releasing their new guidelines about what to deal with trans students, and then we're going to basically follow that advice. So yeah, they got.
We'll do a quick hit on this one. Sunday Times, Josh, and they talk about the Daily Mail running the worst ad ever for weight loss jabs.
Boris Johnson reveals he took slimming drug in Daily Mail column. He's getting paid £500,000 for this column. I read, doesn't mean it's true, but I read someone say that there was evidence that they'd see something that was written by AI, which would be very funny if it did. No. So this is him, going on about how he saw one of his colleagues in Parliament had taken this drug or had lost a lot of weight, and he tried it. He said it really helped him. He said he started taking the drug. He didn't have his 6th or 7th dessert. And, and then it started making... Yes, 6th, 7th child. Yeah, actually, you don't really want him to get any thinner and better looking, do you?
Has he got any thinner? I'm just going to leave it there.
Well, but he said he stopped doing it, and... But the ironic thing is with this column is that he's broken further parliamentary rules because he should have reported the job and then they would have chosen how long it would have taken before he'd taken up the role. Of course, he's like half an hour before, hey, I've got a new job, everyone.
Sue Gray styling. Well, that's it for this section. Up next, shirtless men and sexual mishaps. So, Standard Saturday. We'll see you there.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point, but boom!
And action.
Sergeant Reed, my superstar panel, they're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News. Britain's watching.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Fridays from 8, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Mail on Sunday. Josh, who spent $500,000 on sexual mishaps, and how was that not Boris Johnson?
Yeah, well, this could be his new column. Is this next week's column here? A real bum deal. NHS spent at least £500,000 on treating sexual mishaps last year, including removing items stuck in bums. Now, about halfway through the first page, it says, objects that needed to be extracted were not specified. Well, I'm sorry, Daily Mail. I'm not going to read any further. Shame on you. That's the whole point of reading this thing. Supposedly 514 procedures for the manual removal of a foreign body. I can account for 5 of them. But yeah.
Did you read down to the bit where it says people in their early 50s were the most likely?
Oh, you dirty people in your 50s.
Followed by people in their 20s. I wasn't sure if that was followed up by people in their 20s. Yeah.
Another 5 years and all of a sudden, hello.
But the best bit of this is where Tom Ryan, the policy analyst at Taxpayers Alliance, he says, taxpayers will feel uncomfortable at the prospect of forking out such large sums for these procedures. Mate, what do you want? Just leave them up there. Like, that gerbil needs us back to home. Put him back in his cage.
Yeah. Are you upset by this spending, Paul?
No. I think it's well worth it. 500k is a drop in the ocean, and we get these stories every couple of months. So I think it's a good investment.
Everyone loves if they know someone who works in A&E. That's
Everyone
the
loves a
investment.
bum story.
Of course they do. Mail on Sunday, Paul, and not all toplessness is equal.
Well, no, it's definitely not. That's for sure. With temperatures around 30 degrees, I don't know if you've noticed, it's been quite warm recently in parts of the UK over the last few days. Many among us will want to wear as little as possible to keep cool, but shirtless men in particular have come under fire from angry Reddit users. All Reddit users are angry, so I don't think that differentiates them whatsoever, with some even going as far to say they should go to jail. Now, I'm not a man who's ever really been topless. I've never really had the body for it. Usually topless guys are showing off, generally.
Definitely.
Usually a tattoo. They've gone to this great expense to having a wonderful eagle tattoo or whatever, you know, peace, love, cage fighting.
They're definitely vain. They show off a lot, topless men.
So you don't get... I mean, I drove through Holland Park to get here today. Not one topless man. There's no topless men in Holland Park. They are...
I was in Holland Park.
You weren't topless, though?
No, I save it for
Facing the wrong way.
You save it when you get to other parts of London.
Yeah.
What I would say, though, is this is a very small demographic of people. I don't think... None of you guys strike me as people who... Well, one of the... You might go in your back garden.
No, I don't think any of us would go shirtless, topless.
How short-sighted are you, by the way?
I absolutely did not see that to you.
Your wife does not need to worry about you checking out cleavage. Look at that. In the eye.
Did you see that before I did?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Chest out.
I had no idea.
Any excuse.
It's like a
my brain just accepted that, Josh. It just accepted it.
Because that's how I walk around the office.
I'm not
prejudiced. How long is your beard these days?
Yeah.
All the way down.
Like, it's such a nightmare because it's like, we're going to go on air in a second.
All right, here we go. Let's put it back up again.
Right, to the Observer, Josh, and I don't know if aliens came to Earth, but I'd understand why they left.
Let me just cover my nipples. Yes, so are aliens that bad at parking? What do we need to ask about recent UFO revelations? So there's been a lot of stuff here because there's this, aliens are pretty much definitely with us now, except for the fact there's still no evidence. Yeah. So, but what we do have is this American David Grush. Because he served 14 years in the Air Force and because he's a decorated veteran from Afghanistan and whatever, and he's part of the intelligence agency, and because he's come forward and said, yeah, there's loads of evidence about aliens, because he seems somewhat, feasible, everyone's gone, oh, well, in that case, then the aliens are visiting. We definitely believe this guy.
He's also
not suffering from PTSD.
He's also not being stopped, which is quite interesting. So, when Bob Lazar came out and said these things some time ago, the people involved, particularly in the government, were very interested in coming out to squash everything he was going to say. He's only left his employment with these people some time ago. So it feels... This is the conspiracy theorist in me now that's coming out. It feels to me like he's almost being sent out there to distract us in some way.
Interesting. So this is a
double
fake,
conspiracy.
Yeah, he is an
So
alien.
just let this information come out.
This is real Men in Black stuff here.
Can we try and fit this one in quickly? Mail on Sunday, Josh. And if you want a woman who you can't reach to change your light bulbs, good news. We know how to solve it.
Yeah, countries of the tallest women revealed, and neither Britain or the US rank within the top 20. And the tallest is from the Baltic state of Latvia.
Yes.
And UK women, they're on average 5.7 inches tall, and UK women are 5.5 inches.
Oh, such a difference.
Yeah. Do you like... is your wife tall?
No.
Is your wife tall?
No, not at all, but neither am I. I'm only 5'9".
And how tall is she then?
5'3".
OK.
Oh, that is quite... She's not allowed to have a good time at Alton Towers at that, I tell you.
No, she can get on all the rides.
Well, yeah, good to know. That's too much information. The show's nearly over, so let's take another look at your Sunday front pages. The Mail on Sunday, proof Boris accusers did go to party in lockdown. The Sunday Telegraph, Starmer aide Sue Gray broke civil service job rules. Observer, just an ex-MP. Sunak's allies pour scorn on Beaton Johnson. Sunday Mirror, lockdown video bombshell, Partygate tapes. Sunday Express, get a grip and save the economy. And finally, the Daily Star Sunday. I've forgotten that I'd been abducted by aliens. And those were your front pages. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to my guests, Josh Howie and Paul Cox. We're back tomorrow at 11 with Leo Kirst, Lewis Schaefer and Junior Booker. We'll be reviewing your newspapers. We'll see you then.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing. We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the people's channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christies, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christies, on GB News and GB News Radio.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the